Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, I am feeling the burden of it all, Rachel. I'm feeling the immense weight because we're nearing the end of a big journey we've been on, and I don't want it to finish up. That's how I'm feeling about everything.
Oh, that's sweet.
Sweet, bittersweet, a bit of a bitter sweetness there. But how about you? How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm just feeling a little bit nervous about how well this season is going to stick the landing.
It's a big concern, isn't it? We are already a good chunk through it, and we've only watched 2 episodes. Isn't that just something that gives you a bit of a migraine? You're like, oh God, we have so little time. But Rachel, what are we doing here? What are we talking about?
We're here to talk about The Expanse, which we are watching for the first time and doing an episode-by-episode breakdown.
That is correct. We are first-time viewers, so we can serve as a wonderful companion podcast for those who are also going through the series as newbies, or if you are deeply familiar with it and you get a kick out of people going through The Expanse for the first ever time, then we can only hope to serve that function as well as we blunder our way through and manage to get 1 or 2 things correct and many things wrong. I mean, who would have expected the Gaunt Belter to have returned in the final season? I mean, that was just such a blindsiding move from the series that who would have thought that could happen, but either way, we are called Yum Podcast because of a line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery that inspired us to sit down with a microphone and give our thoughts on given pieces of media. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Yes, it is. So we are here to discuss an episode of the final season. Give us the details, Ryan.
It is the final days of The Expanse, at least for the television series. There's always the video game, Rachel, that you love so much to hear about, the Telltale game, that I think's a prequel. There's the books, which we haven't consumed either, but we are here today to talk about the second episode of Season 6. How did we say it? Azure Dragon. And it is described on IMDb as such. With an unexpected passenger aboard the Rocinante, Holden and crew undertake a dangerous mission that could shift the balance of power in the war. Drummer decides to make an uneasy alliance. Philip wrestles with his guilt. That is the description, according to IMDb, and it really does capture quite a lot there because there's many strands and there's several still not picked up in that description.
No, there is a lot happening in this episode. And I feel like it does a pretty good job at balancing all of the things that it's trying to do. There were definitely strands that I enjoyed more, and ones that I didn't enjoy, but maybe am interested in where they're going.
The episode has a lot of things going on, not only just in terms of plot and character, but tonally as well. And the yum aspect of the podcast kicks in now because we like to look at a given piece of media through a specific set of lenses, and yum is ever changing because that line of dialogue was absurd, was funny, was abstract, but it was also horny and sexual and just brewing with that certain thing that makes you want to lick your lips and throw your hair back. And The Expanse is a series that starts out that way and gives you that every so often, and we like to catalog what in the episode we watched made us feel yum in that way. And Rachel, what was in this one for you?
Well, I feel like there's a pretty obvious line that uh, is sex related, and it just delighted me. It's not yum yum in the truest sense, but I feel like it at least deserves a mention, which is the guy that Drummer's making a alliance with is just like, Marco doesn't like me. I sexually intimidate him.
Oh my god, that guy. That is a great moment. I just selected Bobby in general for this episode. She's in boss bitch mode, and she's very flirty but domineering and standoffish
Pee-wee?
with Amos. Yes, the pee-wee bit, the boom 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 bit, that's what I'm here for. All of her stuff, especially bouncing off of Amos. Did that go into your automatic Amos pick?
Yeah, I was tossing up between him getting called Pee-wee and the him just grunting his way up when they're like he gets knocked down when they're like flying about, and he's like struggling to get up, and the aggressive grunts.
How do I get one of those suits? You'd only hurt yourself, Pee-wee.
Did you enjoy this one? How did it fare for you?
I enjoyed it well enough. It's definitely one of the better episodes that's come in like the front half of a season, because usually there's like it's like whatever.
Usually we would have a whole episode dedicated to them setting up the plan, and then the next episode would them actually be executing it. While this one, it did both. That was a nice change of pace.
Yes, it was. It was refreshingly brisk.
I liked it. I thought this was a very fine piece of television. What I like about it overall is it's cathartic. It is giving us things that you and I in particular, but I imagine many fans have been craving for seasons on end. And it makes me wonder if those things that we've been wanting for seasons on end being prolonged from us was for the better or for the worse. Because Bobby is a part of the crew. We've been wanting that for most of the show because she seems like a character that should be a part of the crew. It would add a fun dynamic, and here it is. We had to wait seasons on end to finally get it in the way that we are getting it. And how much will it just be a taste yet again? Or will this be the remainder of the show? Or things like Monica is getting hired by Christian to do this, and we've been saying, oh, she should have been here in season 4 for this type of thing. And I feel that catharsis of we're in the final days of the series and they are either paying off things we've been wanting or, heck, even indulging in the things that would be fun to do. And it is fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's nice to be delighted by a show.
You want to start us off on the first point, the thing that we kicked the episode with?
Because we start the episode on Laconia, picking up where we left off at the start of the previous episode, which does make me wonder if it's going to be a pattern that they're going to open.
It's season framing device.
Yeah.
Well, I was shocked that we came back to Laconia and that we picked up right where we left off with her,
we both
the little
were
girl.
like, oh, that's them done, right? Because we were like, well, they've got so much to do.
And so little time. Surely they won't spend 5 minutes per episode on a thing that most likely won't pay off this season. Right, guys? Please? God forbid, don't do this. Please don't hurt us with teasing us about a thing that we'll never see a payoff to. Please at least have this payoff in the season in some way. That's my biggest takeaway from it. We can talk about like what's in the material, but that's really what I come away with, is thinking about the meta aspect of it, the production aspect, the fact that this is the final season, and what is this doing here? They knew that they weren't going to finish the story, so they made compromises in production. Like, for what we want to do with the budget we have, it's better to do 6 episodes instead of 10. Okay, and we've seen that on the screen, but what is this Laconia stuff doing here if it isn't going to matter in this season? Like, what do you have any opinions on it, feelings on it? Because think
I'm
about it, that's like
assuming
5
that
minutes
it
of the
is
episode.
gonna matter in this season, which we didn't think that it would. But I'm choosing to have faith that it will matter in this season.
Do you want it though?
Not really. Like, it just feels like it. And then, like, it feels very much, well, this is season 6, so we got to go bigger.
We've got aliens.
Like, they keep on having to up themselves. And it's just like, well, this is the current peak.
And what do they give us within these several minutes on Laconia?
They give a child actor that I got really annoyed by.
Wow, Rachel's picking on children.
I don't know what it was about this performance, but it just... Ugh. Yuck. And I'm like, she's doing a fine job. I just reacted very negatively towards it. And you were like, in the episode, I kept on like being like, ugh. And you were like, stop bullying the kid. She's not that bad. And I'm like, I guess so.
People think I'm the mean one in our relationship. It's Rachel. She picks on children. She's a teacher too, so she has the authority to pick on children more than I do, but I have no issue with the child or the children. There's 2 of them now. They're fine. I think my thing with it is it's written in a way where we lack context, but to a degree that I can't buy. So we have the daughter go back with this dying bird that she has accidentally poisoned because she fed it human food, which it can't eat, which makes sense. And we find out that the humans can't eat or survive off of the stuff on the planet either, so it's a two-way street. But there's just certain things that I just don't understand. So it's been, 6 months or so since the end of the last season, and we can extrapolate that the Martians have been setting up on Laconia for a little while longer than that, of course, because it's been a secret project that they've been funneling through. But I just find it weird that the little girl can just run around and interact with wildlife and run and nearly get run over by a random car, and all of this stuff has so much free range of the terrain on this, what is this supposed to be, this super militaristic base. And I know last time we discussed it, I was like, oh, well, there's kind of a, the Spartan thing going on. Maybe they're a bit carefree and loose, but we find out a bit more about how the base of the planet operates, and it just makes me have that suspension of disbelief start to tatter a bit more about why this story is being told in the way it is with the context we currently have.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, it feels very much like, oh, this is the way to do it for TV. Like, it's drawing attention to those, I guess, sort of principles that are being applied.
Why is it being told like this, though? What's the goal? What's the benefit here, other than making me think that there's sloppy writing and or the people of Laconia are hypocritical or faulty? Like, they act and say like this, but when we actually see the children can run around and nearly get eaten by animals, like, what's the end goal of it all?
I don't know if there is anything specific yet. It really just seems that they have a thing that they need to do. So they're setting these things up so that they can do that later. And I don't know if it is at the moment just meant to be that establishing the dangers of the planet and the sort of how the plan is already falling apart because the kids can just go wherever.
That humanity, even when it has good intentions, and we doubt that Laconians have good intentions, will impact everything around them. That are these beings better or worse than the proto-molecule, in which they come onto this planet and they start to alter it, affect it, harm it, because they're trying to learn, adapt, grow? That's kind of an argument to be made here and a parallel to it as well. I think there's just something just disconnected, because this show, I think, is playing a little bit dirty with it, because she, the girl, keeps getting into these situations that obviously are meaning to you that she's going to get killed or hurt or something, and then it just doesn't happen like that. The dog, that's what we're calling it now, the weird dog thing, is it supposed to be as creepy as it is and as menacing as it is, or did they just go cuckoo in the design there? Because I keep feeling like she's reacting to it like it's supposed to be a cute creature, but it's a fucking terrifying creature that looks like it's going to eat her, but then it doesn't. And I don't know if that's...
Well, if it eats her, it would probably die.
Yeah, but it's an animal. It doesn't know any better, you know? Like, it's now going to die because it's going to eat a bird that has the food that killed the bird in it, you know?
Yeah, is it going to just keep making its way up the food chain until the food chain collapses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what do we learn about Laconia, though? So we're talking about the weirdness of this child running around and that she is interacting with the wildlife, but we do get some pieces of lore and information about the society and about how humanity is interacting with the planet.
Yeah, well, you've kind of mentioned the things that stood out to me, that they have to grow all of their own food and that there's sort of disagreements and power struggles and skirmishes that are happening. Thus, the parents have to go to this meeting and the children are left unsupervised.
There's more of a division than we were led to believe at the end of season 5, where at the end of season 5 it seemed like it was military through and through, and we're all on the same page and we're going to share this weird vision of society. But now we have it as there's obviously more types of people there. Not everyone is going to be on the same page. Maybe some people, like this family, are just scientists who have come to a new frontier and things are a bit more chaotic and messy and dystopian than expected. That's the vibe I got from the family, that they're resentful of how the brass are running things and demanding things of them that isn't how it's supposed to be, and the lack of communication back home because the communication has been cut off. I know this could still be left for prediction stuff, but what's the future of this in the season?
I don't know. I really don't know yet. And I think I'm meant to be more interested than I am about the questions that it's raising. I'm just like, okay, that happened. Let's see what happens next episode with this. Like,
I'm more interested in it because it's the last season and we only have a handful of episodes. So I'm interested in how they are going to justify spending several minutes per episode on this thing that is so far removed from everything else in the series that if you don't land the plane right on this, we'll be sitting here going, we could have had more time with the Rocinante crew. We could have had more time with Christian in each episode, but we spent it with some rather rough child acting and some dodgy CGI creatures here and there.
What's wrong?
Help her, please. You have to help her. Please help her, please.
Baby, I'm sorry she's gone.
The series listens to me because I wanted more Monica. I've been getting more Monica. She's being the reporter we know and love. She's on the hunt. She's sniffing down a story. She's on the UNN ship, and she can tell that there's an unease in the air, but in a way that dictates that either something has just gone wrong or they're waiting on something to become right. And she's trying to probe Christian about which is the one it is. And then we get to the end part of it, in which they have their ultimatum, they have their conversation, they have their back and forth about what's really going on and what Monica can do to help now.
And I love this idea. The proposition Christian gives her wants to commission her to essentially make the belt see the face of the war, see the individuals, not the statistics of the damage that this war is causing.
It may help things. It's a morale thing. It's about boosting the morale of everyone and getting people to feel for one another rather than just dehumanizing them. It's about humanizing them. And Monica has resistance to this at first.
Yeah, well, she thinks that Christian's just trying to use her, which she is. But she is trying to use her for good, not just for political benefit.
It could be a form of propaganda. That's Monica's concern. I am not a part of the state media. I have my own resources, my own credibility is the thing that she has, and she is wanting to keep that credibility. Christian wants to exploit it, and it is a fair concern.
And it is an exploitation of her credibility.
It is definitely that. Like, Christian owns up to it. Like, yeah, this is exactly what it is. But it's
also this. It can be both, and it is.
It is for the good of everyone. I'm not wanting you just to tell the story of Earth, but I want you to help everyone use your skills. And I want to just pitch this forward as a conversation piece, because I was thinking about this. Monica is affronted by the idea because of her journalistic integrity, and that she has, again, these principles and credibility. Does that line up with her character that we've had in the series for you?
Not entirely. Like, she was willing to do dodgy shit to get the story. And I feel like it would have been more earnest in a way if she was just like, well, if you want me to do this, you've got to do this for me. Like, I need these things from you, and I'll do this for you in return. Like, that quid pro quo kind of approach. Like, she was so sleazy on the Rossi.
There is a difference, though, or is there, for her character in particular, of willing to do anything for the story and the reason for doing the story in the first place. When we first met her, she was willing to use her body to get the story. But she was an objective reporter when she was covering the Rocinante. She wasn't trying to degrade them or vilify them, but also she wasn't trying to make them heroic either. She just wanted as much of the truth as possible. And so she was willing to do anything to get that. And I think that's kind of an angle to it of, if she's hired for this job, she'll be willing to do anything to get the job done. But what's her intent behind it? So yeah, maybe once she's hired to do this, she'll do some crazy shit to do the story, but it's the reason for doing this story is what matters to her. Like, that's where her credibility lies. That's what I was thinking about, because is this an arc, or is this how the character has always been, or is this just a pivot of the mentality of her as a journalist character?
Pivot is the one that feels right to me at the moment, because it's a different angle to her. Like, it doesn't feel like they're just switching it up to make it convenient. It feels like she's evolved maybe, and this situation calls for something different.
I think that I think there was a pivot to it, but I think it happened way earlier, because if we just met Monica in season 5, the Monica we had in season 5, this lines up. There's no questioning it, but there is the first several episodes of her appearances in the 3rd season, where she was a lot more slippery and dubious and kind of scummy, but again, she was good. She was doing a good thing, and she maybe once or twice referenced that she wants to win an award or whatever, but like, she wasn't an evil character or a bad character. She was on the good side of things. She was willing to step up. But I think there is a pivot there, because if the writers knew that they were going to have Monica as this type of character, would they have made one of the first things she did in the show as, let's just be honest, gross as they did, which is her thing is she's willing to fuck to get a story? Would they have done that, do you think? Like, does that line up? Because that's the thing that's overshadowing all of this. So it's like, this is how we started the character. And I don't think it's been like an arc. I think it's just they quickly realized they just had a better type of character to do than just that type.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they sidestepped it.
For the better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you appreciate how Christian really hammered it in for Monica to take the job?
Oh, yeah. And I loved Monica's line. I was like, oh, you're really good at guilt trips. And I was like, yeah, I know.
She practices when she's alone. She goes through it all the time. What does this actually look like, though? Monica as a plot. When you get this as the pitch of a story, did it excite you, and did it get your mind working of what it would actually come to be?
Intrigued me, but I wouldn't go as far as to say excited. Because I don't feel like we're going to see a lot of it. I feel like it's going to be a lot of background stuff, and we'll be checking in at key moments, but I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of time spent with them together, and I'm interested to see what that would look like, though.
I think she's going to meet up with some of the other characters because she's going to go location hopping for her job. I have noticed in the final couple of seasons of The Expanse that travel has gotten faster between storylines. In the first couple of seasons, it really felt like it took ages for people to meet up, while now people just zip zapping all over the place. Like, Bobby meets up with the Rocinante really quickly, when I thought the Rocinante was like far away, but maybe they weren't. I don't know. It's kind of hard to keep track, but I've been noticing over the last couple of seasons that there's been some more fast travel.
Time is flexible when it comes to travel now.
Permission to come aboard?
Of course, permission granted.
Sorry about all the hush-hush. The old lady didn't want any of this on comms.
What's going on?
Change of plans. Time to lock and load.
Drummer is low on funds, low on weaponry, low on food, low on water. And she has to make do with the dangers out there. There is a concern that this man that she's called up is dangerous, that he will betray them, and there is no guarantee. He's a last resort. He's the last person she wants to call, but she has to because he's there and he can help out. Or can he? When he first walked on, this new guy, did you trust him? Did you think, oh, this is going to be the type of friend that's a bit of a slime ball, but we can get on his side? Or do you think he's going to betray them, or what?
Uneasy alliance was where my mind immediately went to, of they're making a big deal about how dubious he is. So I was like, I feel like he's not going to be like wrong them up front, but it's still there as a possibility.
There's a lot of nostalgia in this final season, a lot of calling back to where we've been. That often is the case. And that is definitely it with Drummer, because this was Ashford's ship. This was his pirate ship. This was the ship of legends, and it's a tough little ship. And this guy is admiring it, and he's admiring the pirate life and how things used to be and how things could be once again. And although the performance is different and the characterization is different, I kind of got this feeling like this is a guy who wishes that he could have been as much of a badass as Ashford. And so when given the opportunity to kind of do those things, he's really wanting to.
I just want to commend all of the performances in this bit in particular. I feel like everybody really nailed it.
Do you want to talk about the other points of what is brought up there? They've got a plan.
Yeah, their plan is to fuck over Marco, because this guy has been doing trade runs for Marco and skimming off the top occasionally. And then Drummer's just like, why not steal the whole thing?
I really liked, outside of just the planning of Drummer finds an opportunity to strike back at Marco in an unexpected way. I really liked how we got to know more about the inner workings of the new status quo that Marco has enforced upon the system. Because with the time jump, now we have to fill in some of the blanks, and I liked how this guy came in and just made sure that we understood that just because, you know, someone like some group like Golden Bough is a part of the Free Navy doesn't mean everyone within Golden Bough is a lover of the Free Navy. There are people who fought back. There are people who are working within the Free Navy but have resentment of the fact and are treated like shit by the Free Navy. There's a hierarchy.
Resentment. Which is why it makes sense that Drummer's proposition of, you know, stealing the whole cow would go down really well.
I was mentioning a moment ago that there's lots of callbacks to where we started, and one of the first places we started in the Expanse was Ceres. We were there when it was an Earther colony, you know, it was an extension of the Inners. Star Helix were the people running things. They were the police, at least. And now we are in a Star Helix cell, and their logo has been carved over by the OPA.
Star Helix is long gone on Ceres.
Everything that we knew is long gone from there. I like this as a melancholy. It's a great way of expressing how Marco is fucking things up without it just being dialogue. Just seeing Philip sitting in that cell and he's just looking at this logo that's been carved over by another logo that's no longer relevant because the OPA as it exists currently is not the thing that we once knew it to be. It's now just a tool of Marco to use for his own means. And there's no law on Ceres, Rachel, even though that person really wishes there was.
Yeah.
We have rules.
And thinks that there should be. It's not. It's anarchy that Marco runs.
And there's no punishment. There's no repercussions. There's nothing. The most he gets, Philip, from Marco is these scathing, manipulative lectures that are there to guilt him, that are there to instill fear, but that's it. It's just a disappointed father. Someone who says, we used to have it tough, but we got the job done in the end, and that's what you need to do.
You don't know what tough really is.
Back in my day, we used to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we still got things done. That's what he's doing. Sin and I, we would get drunk, and we would get debaucherous, and we would have sex, and we would do all these reckless things that you do, but guess what? We would still get up and do the job because we didn't have the luxury to fuck around. You have that luxury, and it's making you pathetic. I just love how he called him like an embarrassment. It's like, ever since you've arrived in Ceres, you've become this embarrassment.
And it's like, yeah, he is. Like, you're a bad dad, but you're not wrong.
Well, he is because he doesn't understand, he understands perfectly fine. He just doesn't care about the fact that Philip is his own man and has his own psyche and soul. He doesn't care about that. He's aware of it, and he sees it, and it embarrasses him because it doesn't line up with what he believes Philip needs to be. And Philip is conflicted about this. Philip is becoming a man of two worlds in a lot of ways, because what does Philip have to do after he's been let free of this jail cell? He has to contend with what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not doing a great job. And he is being confronted by people who refuse to admit or deal with what actually happened. And they just repeat the party line.
They repeat things and or instill things that should make him feel like it was a good thing, or that it was justifiable, or that what you did in the end was defense for yourself. But it wasn't. It was an act.
No, we were there. We know.
And they know. Everyone knows, but no one's willing to actually take the bull by the horns and deal with the matter because it would go against what Marco wants. And everyone wants to achieve Marco's vision on Ceres. Like, his right-hand woman, Philip, all of these people are just hoping. Yet everyone's whispering and spreading the rumors and then talking about what's going on with Philip and that he's a loose cannon, we can't trust him. And I really like the scene when he was dealing with his friend's belongings and recording a message to his family.
Yeah, being like, he's a great dude. We served together. And it's just like, Fucking hell, you are trying so hard to soothe yourself.
Well, we got to see both sides of Philip as a character because Philip is a person that's divided, and we got to see both divisions. We got to see both of them, in which he records a version of the message that's heartfelt, or at least is opening up to his vulnerabilities and the fact that he did something wrong. And then we see it get squashed, and he deletes it, and he records the stoic, emotionless, bitter, I'm not taking any ownership of this, you should be thankful, like the vision of what his father needs him to be. I love that. I love that. It's just really well done stuff. Philip is a character that, even in an episode like this, in which he gets very minimal amount to do and screen time, there's just a lot to chew on with him as a character. There's just a lot to mull over and think about.
She explains that love can mean a lot of different things. And you can use love to justify a lot of different decisions. She refers to abuse that she suffered in the name of love.
What do you feel about her statement about love means different things to different people and how it applies to this series?
I definitely think that it's true in this world of the Expanse, because we have seen a lot of awful things justified by love in terms of like a personal level, but also it harkens back in a way to Avasarala's Earth First approach, because it was her love for Earth that motivated a lot of those decisions that had awful consequences.
She mentions, Rosenfeld, that one of the things that he could feel towards Philip was envy.
Yes.
Interesting take from her.
Yeah.
And that she's ballsy enough to say this, because Mark is like, everyone fears me, by the way. And she's like, great, good for them. Good job.
Yeah. Like, she's not going to back down. And I really appreciate that, because we've had it pointed out to us, even within the show, that a good EXO needs to be able to do that.
She's the one really running the war. She's the one really in charge of things. Marco is a planner, but he's very bad, it seems, at the actual legwork of it all. He's
a general, not a president.
Yeah, but even then, he seems disinterested to an extent.
Yes.
He
He's more of a general than a president.
He's a terrorist. He just loves coming up with little fucked up schemes that disrupt things, but he doesn't really think about what goes on from there.
No.
He's going over his plan again and again and again, trying to find if there's a different way to do it, and there isn't. And it's like, it's a perfect thing. He can't mess with it. But he wants to because there's nothing to do. It's like, well, no, there's plenty to do, Marco. Oh boy, is there plenty to do, but you're not going to because
it doesn't benefit you directly.
That's it. It doesn't benefit you directly. Do you think that he is envious of Philip? Because she says that, and it's something that, you know, the show is pointing to.
Yeah.
But have you seen it that way before, and do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, like I think that there is a element of that. I was like, oh, if I could be in your place and continue to build on my own legacy, is something that I've thought about Marco. Like him being like, oh, if I was in Philip's shoes. And I had all of this, and I've worked so hard to give it to him, and he's wasting it.
Yes, I see that as a read, for sure. It's not one that I've had. Envy is not a thing that I've thought he has had towards Philip. I can see it definitely being there, but it's just not something that's been a driving thing for that relationship in my mind. And so I'll keep an eye on it for the remaining episodes. And I'll think back on the last season as well. It's just something that when she said it, it made me tilt my head and go,
And I do think that it's envy, not jealousy. Because I don't think he would trade what he has. I think he would see it as a downgrade, so it's not something that he wants for himself.
Rachel, it's time to really get into the heart of the matter, the thing that everyone has been sitting here waiting for, which is for you to praise and love and be so thankful for a Bobby plot.
Yeah, she's on the Rossi, and she's in charge. Woo. I waited so long, and it is so worth it to finally have this plot.
Were you not a fan?
It was not worth the wait, but it's decent.
It's good. I liked it, but it's not.
I like the way that she's doing it. She's got a lot of big dick energy, and I like it.
She's coming on board, and it's all secretive, but we know what it's all about. We knew from the last episode. I was just shocked that she actually was there immediately.
Yeah,
I'm so used to them slow drip
like you
feeding
were
us it.
mentioning earlier.
They actually gave us the goods. She's there with a Goliath suit. She's got that ready to go. You know she's going to fuck shit up. She's saying all of the badass action phrases like lock and load and all of this stuff. And we're ready here to fight and take names and all this cool nonsense. And Bobby's a character we've had a lot of issues with. We won't retread it all. But one of the things that we have just wanted is just her to be a part of the Rocinante crew and or be able to interact with these characters, because so often she's on her own with characters that only exist for her and then will never be die or never be seen or heard from again. Like, remember that she had a nephew
that she saved.
Was he a good character? Nope. Was he memorable? Nope.
His girlfriend was more interesting.
Sure, we'll never see or hear about her ever again. Like, it's
Didn't
just
she die?
No, she lived. The Blondie.
Oh yeah, Blondie was the one that lived.
Yeah, she was the one that lived. And it's just Bobby's been on her own, and then in season 2 and 3, at the end of season 2, start of season 3, she was with Christian and Katya. That was fun. And then she was with the Rocinante for a handful of episodes. That was great. And then we haven't really had anything like that again. It's just been on the outside, like skirting by. Oh, Alex and Bobby was a little bit fun last season, but not enough. And now here she is, and she's in charge. That's a great dynamic to put into the series, because she is an actual hardline military figure. She's not like Holden, where he was in the military at one point, but he's not actually an army boy, you know?
He made it part way, but he wasn't it through and through in the same way that Bobby is.
And Bobby's here with a mission in mind. But before we get to all of that stuff, there was a choice made, which was Holden takes Bobby aside after there's some fun interactions and the layout of the plot is given, to let her know and to confer with her about the red goo nonsense that's happening with the ring.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I like the way that there was sort of a trade of information that felt very genuine. Like, genuine's not quite the word that I want, but
it's because both Holden and Bobby are concerned about this existential threat, while the others aren't as much.
No, they're very much caught up in the present and the human scale problem, not the
cosmic.
Yes.
And there's just this exchange about it and debate about how this is unusual. And I appreciate, too, that they make it a big deal that it isn't happening with every ship. It's just so strange that it happens with this one. It's like, have you heard any other stories? Like, oh, a couple of rumors here and there, but nothing solid because we don't know. And so there is a pickiness to how the red goo is doing this stuff, which is weird. I don't know what to make of it. This is another thing where I worry about it because it's come up in both episodes, but will it actually matter within the end of this series? Or is this just a remnant of things? Like, is this similar to Laconia, where we're going to spend time on it, but will it actually matter? Because again, this is another minute of an episode dedicated to a thing that I genuinely don't know if we're going to get a payoff to it, or at least some satisfying furthering.
I feel like those two are going to be linked because they're sort of in the distance.
That is not a normal transit.
And you would know.
Might have something to do with the protomolecule that was stolen from Fred Johnson. You get me a look at that intel?
Yeah. I'll make it happen.
Let's get to the good shit, Rachel. The dynamics. Bobby is on the ship, and everyone has a dynamic with her. There's all of these fun bits and bobs and banter and interactions.
Yeah. Amos and her are not in sync, and I quite enjoy that. I like that they're not getting along, but in a way where they're like, yeah, we're fucking working together, but you suck.
It's because he's no longer the strongest one on the ship.
Yeah.
The most competent one in a fight. He's no longer the one that's the best at knowing how to kill someone or knowing how to do the job.
He's not the brawn.
Would you say that it's insecurity on his part?
I think it's more like, I think it's more fear of losing what little he has left. Because Amos is very aware that they are not holding together as a crew. And the Rossi and Peaches in particular are what he has left to cling to. And Bobby is a direct threat to Peaches and to the Rossi.
Interesting. I think there's a resentment between Amos and Bobby because of the brawn thing, but also he is tired of the job that they're on not being as simple as he would want it to be, which is we just go over there and kill the guy.
Or as lucrative.
Yes. I think back to his conversation with Anna about how he would regret not killing Ashford if he died before that happened. And just in Amos's world, things are as black and white as that. Of like, they sent someone to kill me, so they must be bad, so I should kill them first. And Marco's a bad guy, and we should just go kill him. But oh no, we have to play reconnaissance and spy and diplomat and do all of these other things rather than what he knows what to do, which is to be the guy that goes in there and shoots them in the face or punches them in the face or whatever the case may be. And Bobby is the representation of that. She's there saying, we're not going to blow up the ship. We're not going to do this. We're going to do this, and this. And he is resentful of that. He's in between a rock and a hard place because it was easier in the last episode when it was Jim doing this because he respects Holden. They are brothers in arms. They have a relationship. They care about one another. But even then, in the last episode, he made it pretty clear that he's wearing thin with this stuff too. So Bobby, someone who he doesn't have this with, is just going to get way more overt pushback from him.
Yeah. And it makes sense. And it is delightful to be watching a show where that kind of thing makes sense and doesn't feel contrived. It's not, oh, we're introducing somebody and there's got to be a dynamic shift and there's got to be interpersonal problems and we got to do this, this, and this so that we can have this, this, and this. It's just like, no, this makes sense. It feels like it's coming from the characters, not being forced on them.
It is also the first time in a while in which he's had a peer, someone that he's supposed to respect and be equal with, openly belittle him.
Yeah.
He's not used to that type of banter in that way. Then there's the relationship she has with Holden, which is probably the most diplomatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most friendly, probably. He seems relieved at times that she's taking charge and annoyed at times or resistant to the fact that at times because, well, he's Jim Holden. He's the protagonist, Rachel. He can't. If he says that they should let it go, run away, then they should. But she says, no, I'm in charge.
She pulls rank.
And he quit because he didn't like having to follow the chain of command. But now, since he's been in charge, he's the guy who dictates the chain of command. And that comes into play later on when he talks to Clarissa. Oh, I like Bobby's brief dynamic with Clarissa, which is, fuck that shit. She's on board. I loved her reaction to finding out that Clarissa Mao was working on the Rocinante. And she's like, well, she's a fugitive. We've got to arrest her. We've got to do this. And I'm just laughing to myself, being like, yeah, Bobby Draper. Yeah, you've never been in that position before in this series, right?
No!
Yeah, right, Bobby?
We didn't have any sympathy for that.
No, you're not one to be able to, be in someone else's shoes. Not at all. Nope. Just a moment where Bobby is like, oh yeah, Bobby's a fucking soldier. That's right. She just doesn't have that kind of ability in her to kind of realize that she's a bit of a hypocrite in this moment. It's like, Bobby, you've been in this place. You've been in similar positions where you're being hunted down by the establishment for nasty shit that you've been a part of. Come on. But Clarissa's a murderer, and it's simple as that. But we know that thanks to the last season, where someone like Amos, who sees things as black and white as that, can change and evolve, and the viewpoint can be different. But the real friction is Naomi. Naomi is not happy this season.
No, she's traumatized. And I am really interested in this plot for her. I was surprised when she started to have a panic attack when she was about to jump the ship, and the fact that her fear was too much and she couldn't overcome it, because we have seen her go through so much and be able to bounce back and to keep moving forward and do better and pull up those bootstraps and march on and march on and march on. And now she's hit a point where she's too low to do that. She is not filled up enough to process, to complete the healing that she needs to do, because she's just been go, go, go.
And she is actively aware that it's wearing her down, but she doesn't have the ability to stop. A thing that has been very much in the forefront is having to hunt down her own kind, kill her own people. For what reason? The justification for it is no longer enough for the actual toll it's taking on her. And that's where her and Bobby butt heads, because Bobby is here to do a mission, and she's talking about the enemy. She's talking about them like how a good soldier does, how a good Marine does. She's talking about them as targets. She's talking about them as the opposition. She's not thinking about the people, and she's not thinking about how these people relate to, say, someone like Naomi. And so there are many moments where she puts her foot in her mouth and she's like, oh, Naomi, you know I don't mean it like this. But like, you do though, Bobby. You do mean it like that because this is how you view the world because of your occupation, because of your role in it. You are there to look at them as objectives to be ticked off the list. And that's how Naomi has had to be doing it, but that's not who she is as a person. We've had to see the Rocinante of the last couple of seasons become these hapless mechanics in space to soldiers. I was also surprised that we got a moment of PTSD from her space jump last season. But I mean, why are we surprised? That was a very big traumatic event.
Oh, yeah, it's just that thing of, oh, yeah, that's right, this show does follow through. So yeah, she is dealing with that still. But it's also like, well, Naomi has worked through so many other things that it is that kind of like, oh, yeah, I suppose something eventually would make her hit a wall.
But we also know that she hasn't worked through a lot of things. We've seen it throughout the series, but I think it's best encapsulated when Jim talks to her on the radio and asks if she's okay. And she says, I'm all right. And then he asks, what type of all rights? Are you actually, or is this I'm not ready to talk about it yet?
I love that moment so much.
And that's a beautiful
I'm like,
encapsulation of her character.
But that's also, yeah, that's being solid in a relationship.
What happened back there?
I'm all right.
Really all right, or not ready to talk about it all right?
Second one.
What is the mission that they have to do in this episode? So they're not to destroy the ship.
No, they want to capture it. They want to get the information off the ship.
The information, the data should have all of the info in regards to the rocks that Marco has. And I may be mistaken, but I think the way that this works too is that ship is the way that they activate the rocks. It's not like at the end of this, Marco can just be like, well, they found out, just activate all the rocks and throw them now.
No.
He's basically lost all of his weapons.
Yeah. They're going to come for him, and they have that conversation at the end of this episode. And Marco seems weirdly excited by that prospect.
Do you think that's the case? Was that your read on it?
Yeah. That because the way that they figured out where it was and its orbit, I'm pretty sure that's the way that it worked. That's at least the way that I took it.
In what way, you mean?
That it's the ship that's been sending the signals.
Yes, but I was more in regards to, you think Marco has this kind of excitement towards this?
Oh, yeah, like he's annoyed, but he's also like, oh, I get to do the thing now. He doesn't have to sit on his hands anymore because the fight's going to come to him.
I read it differently. I read that as him coping. I read that as him putting on a little show for Rosenfeld and anyone else around. I think he's fucking bitter and afraid because things have been going to plan for him in this entire thing. And now things aren't going his way and he doesn't know what to do about it. But, I have to say, yeah, this is great. This is exactly what we need. Now we can really do the fight, even though realistically there is no fight because they have more numbers than he does. He just had these rocks as the only way to just keep them down. And now that's taken away from him. And they're going to come to Ceres. He's like, they're sentimental that way. Are they? Or is it just because that's where you've publicly said you are, you idiots? Because that's it. He's made a big rallying point about come to Ceres, it's where I am. Of course they're going to come there. It's not about them being like, I know Ceres is important, but like I think Ganymede's probably more important to take back, or one or two of the others. But I mean, Ceres is important, of course, but it's because you said you were there. Did you like the taking of the ship? Because there's a whole elaborate thing where they have to take the ship and make sure that they don't have the data core breached and erased and they don't blow up the ship. And there are people who are like, let's just blow it up, or oh, let's run away. And there's a whole chase.
Yeah, I thought that it was really well paced. I thought the music for that sequence was particularly good. It was fun.
It was
tense, but it was fun. Like, you definitely got the sense that they were going to win this one, but you didn't know what the cost might be.
And what complications could fuck up things in different ways, because there were furthering complications during it all, like with Naomi freezing up, like with Peaches having to step in, but she doesn't know what things to pull, and oh no, Bobby's being pinned down over here, and Peaches has to use her device to kill this guy, but now she's knocked out. Like, there was all of these
almost
monkey wrenches in the thrown in.
choking on her own vomit.
On her own vomit, yeah. There was enough nuances to the problems in there. There was enough variance of issues,
but it
that
didn't feel contrived.
And you still understood that they were going to win this. I love. This is probably one of my favorite space action set pieces they've done in the show, because not just the visuals are really good.
That's fair.
But I'm always more of a sucker for, especially in the Expanse, when you get a caper type deal, in which this isn't about how they're going to win in terms of just blowing it up with their shooting abilities. Like, oh, Holden does a spinny thing and then it shoots a missile. This is about how they have to be precise. They can't do the easy method of just shoot them and then get on. There's all of these little these little things they have to do to pull off the heist, the plan, the disabling of the ship and get the goods.
And you often like it when the danger is individual and personalized in a way.
One of the things I love about the series Killjoys, which I've referenced a bunch because also it was a sci-fi show around the same time with a lot of the same actors involved, is because many of the episodes would be like this, where it's not necessarily about like killing the guy or blowing up the spaceship, but it was about having to come up with a plan to get the thing or get this information or save this person. And we have all of these interpersonal problems that come up as well. And that's what this episode did with this taking of the ship, where it's like, oh no, Peaches is now in on the plan, but Bobby doesn't trust Peaches, but Naomi doesn't like Peaches there either, but we have to because it's an extra body and she's willing to do the job and she's got something to prove, and Amos is happy, but he's concerned about her well-being. Like, Amos almost fucks up the mission himself when he's with Holden because he's so worried about Peaches.
It all works together.
We haven't discussed Peaches.
No.
Truly.
It was so sweet when she was just like, he called me part of the crew. Navis is like, you know you got chewed out, right? And she's just like, but he called me part of the crew.
He called me part of the crew.
He called me part of the crew.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being believable and 10 being unbelievable, where does Holden calling her Peaches go?
I think Amos has made it stick, and I also think it works for Holden, because if he called her Clarissa, that would be a reminder of who she was and what she did to him, and they're stuck together. So he's like, fuck it, I've got to move on. So she's Peaches now.
So 6 then. It's a 10 for me. When he said Peaches, my jaw hit the floor and my eyes rolled into the back of my head. I could not believe he would call... You know what? Even at the end of this episode, I do not fucking believe for a second him or Naomi would call her Peaches.
Okay.
After what she's done to him and Naomi, no fucking way. And I know that Peaches has done great stuff apparently in the 6 months or so, and and by the end of this episode, she proves herself even more. Hence, he calls her a part of the crew. But I'm sorry.
But Peaches?
Peaches? No. And the thing is, I do actually still hold her in that place that you said that he wouldn't. I'm glad that Peaches has had this growth arc and all of that stuff, and I've appreciated it, I've enjoyed it, but she's on the Rocinante now. And because she's on the Rocinante now, what's always in my mind is who she is/was to the people of the Rocinante. And we talked about it last episode. She is the season 3 version to these people. And we have not had on the screen any proper confrontation or acknowledgement in a grander way about that. So this episode is to address that for Holden, because that's the thing. Holden, did we even see in the end of season 3 him know that Clarissa existed in the way that she did? He met her in jail, but did he ever learn that she did all of this stuff to get at him? I don't remember that being a thing. But okay, we know that he must have at some point, obviously. But I needed them to have a proper conversation about it at some point. And this episode, they gave it to me, but not in the way that I wanted. So I can't complain, but I am in a weird way. You know what I mean? They did do it, but not in the way that we were wanting or saying we were wanting it, you know? The fact is, she killed so many people to get at him specifically. And I wanted them to have more of a
grapple with it.
A grapple with it, but they went with it in a different sense of she did this very heroic but dangerous thing to do the right thing, and that has won him over.
But it's also, I feel like it's not that he's won over. It's that it's a liability to consider her separate from the crew.
It's a begrudging thing too.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I say I don't believe him calling her Peaches, when he did call her Peaches, the line delivery and the facial expression was a bit of a I can't believe I just did that.
Oh yes, I have to do.
Holy crap.
God, this is what I'm doing now. Okay.
There's still time and room for the tension between Peaches and Naomi.
Yes.
But in regards to Holden accepting Peaches as a member of the crew, and this being a touch point at least, and maybe resolution, but let's just say touch point of the underlying problem between these two, is it satisfying?
Not completely, but I can't pinpoint why. Also, it just feels like there's more left on the table.
The only real reason I let you stay aboard was as a favor to Amos. And that's how I've been thinking about you. As an obligation.
I understand.
I don't think you really do. I know you were trying to help. But we had a plan. And when you changed that plan without going through the chain of command, you put all of us at risk. I'm the captain of this ship, and as long as you're part of the crew, you do what I say when I say. You see a problem, you talk to me first, so everyone knows what's going on. No more deciding for yourself what the new plan is.
We've said a lot of nice things, and we've said a lot of not nice things about this episode. So what do you rate it on the scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good? A rating system that you specifically designed and enforce.
My rating system is a tough one. It's good or bad. And so I'll give my rating now, it's a yum yum.
Yum yum.
I look at it as it's good as an episode in general. It's really well made. The acting is great. The themes are on point. The technicals and the visuals are really magnificent. It's got that type of action that invests you rather than just wows you, and that's always something to praise and cherish when it comes along. It's cathartic, as I said at the beginning, to see all of these characters and plot threads come to these points that you've been wanting them to. That being said, we're only early into the season. We're only 2 episodes in, but this, I do feel, is a step down from the last episode. The last episode, to me, had a lot more stuff to sink my teeth into on just a character level, thematic level. Like, that one I'm still lingering and thinking about, while this one was high on the entertainment factor of things.
Yeah. It's a yum yum for me too, but I do wonder if it's going to slip to feeling more like a yum when we finish the season.
Yum yum.
Because there are problems with it. Like, the problems with it are the links beyond just this episode. Like, this episode is tight. But when you think about it in the broader context, it doesn't feel as tight.
There's issues that come from how the series has led up to here, but also, and this is, again, maybe unfair to the episode itself, but knowing that there's so little runway left, there's certain things within this episode that we're being a bit harsher on because we're doubtful that they're going to matter. Laconia, the red goo, like, those are things that we're looking at and going, I doubt this will matter. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. But at this moment in time, it's kind of just this thing of,
it's just hanging there.
The red goo hung for the whole entire 5th season and didn't matter until the very end. So what will be different here, you know?
Yeah, we got no guarantees. But I have a guarantee, which is that you are now going to tell me what the title of the next episode is.
Are you dying to know the name of the next episode, Rachel?
Yes.
Are you gagging for it?
No.
So you don't want to know it then? Okay.
I do.
So you're dying but not gagging. All right.
You're going to make a liar out of me.
Okay, Rachel, I'll tell you anyway because I know the listeners out there are really wanting to know, because the 3rd episode of the 6th season, we're halfway through the season next episode, by the way.
No.
Is called Force.
I don't wanna.
Is called Force Projection. So, what will be our predictions about the 3rd episode of the final season called Force Projection?
I think we're going to be dealing with the rocks somehow. I don't know why that's twigged that, but I guess that, like, the fallout of not having the rocks is obviously going to be important, but I'm wondering if there's going to be some science talk about them. I think that Holden's going to try and talk to Naomi and isn't going to really get anywhere. I also think that we're going to have some interesting moments, or maybe just a moment, with Bobby and Peaches.
I hope so.
Why don't you give some of your thoughts on the title and or predictions?
I hope that there is some furthering of the dynamic of Naomi and Peaches. How does Naomi feel about what went on here? What is her reaction? How do you read her at the end of this episode and how they could take her going forward? Do you think that she is appreciative of what Peaches did and what Peaches was able to do? Or do you think because of how bad of a headspace Naomi is in, she could take this the wrong way and be resentful of Peaches having to step in for her weakness?
Yeah, I think she's going to be resentful of Peaches as a reminder of her weakness.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm hoping will brew. There is, of course, Marco. The war is going to come to him. Now, will it actually come to him in the next episode?
No.
Ooh.
I don't think it's going to get all the way to series.
I think that he is going to run away from Ceres because he's a coward. And he's going to leave them in the dust, and he's starved them, he's bled them dry.
Do you think he's going to head to the ring?
I was assuming he was going to head to Ganymede because they referenced it a bunch in this episode, and that it's an important hub for what he's working on. And he's mentioned it before, but there's some project going on at Ganymede when it comes to food, to grain and resources, and that I think will tie into what Drummer is going to get up to, which is Drummer is going to get the locations from the guy from the Golden Bough and convince him and his group to actually attack those supply depots and seize them and cut off the means of production from Marco. And Marco's going to find out about that, and it's going to really raise his hackles, and he's going to be cornered. I think Ganymede's going to be coming into this story somehow because, again, they've mentioned it a bunch.
Don't tease me with the idea of Prax.
Oh my god, just give me Prax.
How dare you?
How dare I? I think Monica is going to start her campaign of empathy, I call it. I think we're going to get a bunch of her interviewing people on Earth, and in so doing gives us a greater understanding of how Earth is affected by the attacks, and also how Earth is going to react to the new victory that they're going to have against Marco when it does come. Any other predictions of what could be happening in the next episode? Anything? Philip? Anything happening with Philip in your mind?
No, nothing leaps to mind.
Okay, next episode, that's all I have with it as well. What about the rest of the series? Any long-term predictions or things that
Nothing
you
new.
want to mull over? Nothing new? Nothing that we haven't already kind of tickled within the episode itself? I want to know, do you think we will actually meet aliens? Not just creatures, but like actual aliens in this series. It was something I asked all the way back in season 1. Now here we are.
No.
No?
I'm going to go no because I think you're going to go yes. And I'm on the fence.
I really am unsure. I'm not going to count the red goo aliens because they're like interdimensional whatever. Like, I'm talking about like an actual like human, you know, like someone that they could bump into, not just like a weird nebulous Cthulian nightmare, but like an actual thing. Part of me thinks so, yeah. Do you have any theories on what Laconia's, like the society's endpoint is? Because it's all about the orbital thing.
Nah, no clue. Just enjoying the ride.
My pitch, like, my theory is they're going to try and cultivate protomolecule on Laconia itself. Like, they're going to grow and make their own protomolecule. That's what I'm thinking it is. And that they're going to try and make super weapon technology out of it, so that way they can come back to the system and take over it because they deem that they're good enough now. That's why Marco's so scared, because handed to Marco, he gave them that system and said bye-bye, but he's made sure, like, we need to strengthen Medina Station because I don't trust those guys. Like, Marco's a dummy and egotistical. He's not dumb about that, though. He's been making sure he's making sure that he knows that those guys are enemies. Just because we were friendly at one time doesn't mean we're friends. So I appreciate that aspect of his character. He's aware that they're not friends. And my final prediction. I'm being real honest here. I would love it if in some way, shape, or form we got Papa Mao come back. If we got Clarissa's dad come back so that way she can have some closure. Because that's like a big part of her character too, is the daddy issues thing. And it would be great to see Jules Pierre Mao again and see how he is reacting to things. Like, what does him in prison look like? And what does him after everything that's gone on with the proto-molecule and the universe at large, because it's his fault. I'd be keen to know. That's just something that it's a very pie in the sky type of prediction, but it's something I'm thinking about a lot.
It's a desire more than a prediction.
But I'll make it a prediction. He'll show up.
Okay, there we go.
He'll show up in some way.
You know who's done a great job showing up?
Who?
Our patrons.
They show up week to week to let us know that yes, it did appear in our feeds, these episodes. They do appear. I listen to them. I laugh at Rachel laughing. That's often a comment. People laugh at you laughing. People disagree with things I say a lot, and that's fine. It's fine. It's okay, guys. We'll get into a fight about Havelock again. Don't worry, because he will appear in the next episode. Havelock will be the force projection. The force projection of the title is actually Havelock is standing there, and you think it's him.
Is it a hologram?
It's Luke in The Last Jedi. It's a Force Ghost projection thing, but it's Havelock, and he's on Laconia.
Check out our socials. They're under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. If you want to email us, direct that to yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Feel free to rate and review the podcast, share it about with everyone, and yes, if you want to hear the remainder of what we have to say about the season, then head on over to our Patreon, in which we upload these episodes first, as well as so many other pieces of bonus content. You get to be a part of the community Discord, where we chat with you, we watch some stuff, we just have a jolly old time. And Rachel, this is another point in which we say goodbye to everyone, but also we're getting closer and closer until we say goodbye to the Expanse in general. So it's really sad to say that I no longer have to go with a farewell sign-off of, well, the Gaunt Belter will appear, because he did!
He did! He did! It's our first episode post that, so how are we going to end the episodes now, Ryan?
With thank you for bringing back the Gaunt Belter. We just thank
you
the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Now Earthers know what it feels like to be Belter.